So, Joel, thank you so much for coming along. Should we start simple? Do you want to introduce yourself a little bit?
Yeah, of course. My name is Joel. My name is Joel. I'm originally from Switzerland. I moved this March 9 years ago here to the UK. I sold everything I had in Switzerland, just needed an adventure in my life. I started my career as a carpenter, furniture builder, made a 4-year apprenticeship on that. And after that, I was working almost 8 years for an event marketing agency. So we spread flyers and posters and things like that. So I started as a simple flyer distributor and went on to as a field representative, buying services and selling services to other people, making the contracts and all that. And at that point, I was in about 10 years together with my partner. And certain things started manifesting and establishing, and we just decided it's probably a good step to just sell everything and just start from scratch so new dynamics can develop. So we moved into the UK with our doggy, a big synthesizer and a few clothes in our Fiat Panda, and started here from scratch. We didn't have a house, we didn't have a job, nothing, and we just started building up.
And there's bold adventureship right there.
Yeah.
And we obviously met through the beauty of computer algorithms.
Yeah, exactly. So,
I was doom scrolling one day, and a lot of sort of the normal content popped up, and you kind of get numb to this stuff, and then your products popped up, and I literally stopped and was like, "Holy shit, what is this?"
Yeah,
it's awesome. So do you want to tell us a little bit about it and how you kind of got into it in the first place?
Yeah,
How did you end up doing what you're doing now?
So I think that continues through the story. I was working then 6.5 years in a picture framing shop, and had really access to really cool machines and laser cutting machines, and both at the same time 3D printing machines and stuff. And I always had an interest in what does it mean, our consciousness, when we perceive reality. And I always had a kind of a questioning perspective on that, even as a child, because I always realized that it can change really quick. And my interest in psychedelics started coming in my mid-20s, beginning 30s. I just want to explore psychedelics. And in my research about psychedelics, I came across a Joe Rogan podcast with Dennis McKenna. And Dennis McKenna was...
I was about to say, which psychedelics podcast was Joe? 90% of them, that guy's talking
aliens.
about DMT.
Yeah. So, he was talking about a light device that apparently can induce almost DMT-like states. Yeah. And that was really intriguing to me. Mm. And before I tried any psychedelics, then I went on to the venture to try the light, and immediately realized, oh wow, that's something that is potentially something that really can help me, and allows me to go on really interesting mind journeys with it. But I also realized there's a lot of potential there to do things. So I started tinkering around my own product, and that's this. That's
here,
this. Yeah,
this tiny little device.
That's depending from which version on you start counting, but it's technically the fourth version.
So for listeners as well, it's a sort of tiny little circular thing. It's about sort of 80 mil in diameter, and literally you can fit it in your hand, and it's got sort of 4 lights that independently can function to flash at different frequencies. So it's a really smart little thing. This one in the studio is on a tripod, which helps you align it with your eyeballs when you need to put it to work and start flashing. But
so that is basically the fourth version I released on Lightbath. Lightbath is the company.
What was the first version? Was it just bigger, or was it? Is that like the iPhone?
Yeah,
iPhone 1.
Because when I heard the first time about it, it was about the Achner light, and the Achner light was quite a large, heavy device with a lot of light power and stuff. And my first version was quite oriented on that system. And over time I realized I want to go a little bit in a different direction by trying it out, by seeing what other people are doing with it. I realized there's a lot of potential for research, and going into different directions with it. And the one you saw online on Instagram was that one, and because that is the first device which actually is below 100 pounds. That's the first in history, so to speak.
So should we? So we were talking a little bit before we sort of hit record on this, but there are some competing brands which we won't name now, but they're big, they're specialists, they're expensive. I mean, the thing that really got me was I was like, right, okay, there's this little thing. I have to be honest with you, I was a little bit skeptical. I was like, sure, because we get sold snake oil a lot online, and everyone wants that new water filter or the new whatever it might be. But genuinely, I was like, right, this has really pricked my curiosity here. So I got in touch with you, offered to buy one. You kindly said your money's no good here, because we had a mutual love of stuff. And you sent me one, and I have to say it's so. Just to describe this device in simple terms, and then you can sort of tell everyone how it actually works, etc. So there are 4 settings. You've got alpha, delta, gamma, and Schumann.
Exactly,
Pronounce that right?
Yeah.
Schumann?
Schumann, yeah.
Schumann. So each of these settings can be configured, and you put it on your tripod or whatever you can do to get it to face you. And you set the program, you choose either alpha, delta, gamma, or Schumann, and it will strobe at your eyes at certain frequencies, and you shut your eyes, and these lights essentially trigger your brain into going into the state of mind that your brain emits when it's in an alpha state, a delta state. So it's biohacking, really, isn't it? I hate that term, but it really, really is. And I have to say, this whole snake oil thing, the first time I tried it, I ran upstairs to my wife. I was like, you got to try this thing. It's nuts. Like, it's fully nuts. I was seeing like hallucinating. I was having sort of almost like, I felt like I was in a psychiatrist's office or something, right? Like, where it was really drawing out different thoughts and emotions from my mental state. So Can you kind of explain how this thing changes the brain waves in human beings and how it actually works?
Yeah, as you mentioned, it's basically a stroboscopic light, and it emits its frequencies in very specific frequencies, and our human brains are quite receptive for certain frequencies. We are receptive for all frequencies, but for certain ones we get into very unique states. And when you close your eyes, the information from your eyes goes through your vision nerve into the hippocampus, and that's basically our lizard brain, and that's where information gets distributed into the rest of the brain. And what we have is a frequency following response. So that's how we generally perceive reality as a whole, by synchronizing to these auto-stimuli naturally. So you can have that with sound, you can have that with light, you can also have that with haptics, or different senses need to be made sense of in our brain. And the light hijacks kind of that mechanism, and it steers your dominant brainwave into a certain direction. So I can give you a little bit an idea what it means going through these different brainwaves throughout the day. So when you get up in the morning, or when you're asleep, then you're mostly in a delta state. It's very slow waves, usually between 1/4 hertz up to 4 hertz. Hertz, it's basically 1 wave per second is 1 hertz. So the light turns on once.
The frequency.
The frequency. It's expressed in hertz. So these are basically a waveform in a second. So the light turns on once and turns off once in a second is 1 hertz. And then you go up to a theta, that's between 4 to 8, and then into an alpha from 8 to 12. When you're waking up, you're going through theta into an alpha state.
So can you describe those physical changes? So
yeah,
theta
exactly. Theta is deeply relaxed. Is you falling almost back asleep. When you're in an alpha state, it's a relaxed, focused state. So when you meditate, for example, you go into an alpha. But it's not really a state where you make active decisions, or where you make logical things in your brain. So when you're just waking up and you see the room, you can perceive the room, but you don't question anything, then you're definitely in an alpha state. As soon as you get up,
like a neutral, calm state of consciousness, like meditation.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So when you, for example, use a meditation tracker or something like that, they usually look for the alpha states, dominant brain waves in your brain, and measure that on an EEG. And then you go into a low beta, that's between 12 to 20 hertz, and that's where you can make calm decisions. So you get up, you're brushing your teeth, you can basically absorb your surrounding and make sense of it. And then we get a little bit into the spicy stuff. We get into the high beta brain waves, and that's where, when you open your phone, you scroll through social media, you read your first email in the day, you maybe have the first phone call, you get a certain stress response for things you have to do on that day, you have to go after. And that's where our cortisol levels rise, our stress hormones, and we fall in a flight and fight response within high beta. So we have very difficult time to...
Which most of us are in most of the time.
Yeah, unfortunately, yes. Yeah. When you work in a busy environment, you're surrounded by high beta people. If it compare that, for example, in lifestyle from a monk, that guy gets up, quiet, has a little bit more work in the morning, has a quiet lunchtime, and in the afternoon maybe martial arts training.
Low frequency.
Yeah, but yeah, it's a waveform. Yeah, and Western society is more that big hump. And then we go into evenings and we need to wind down and calm down, but we really can't because we're all the time on the high beta.
Well, this is obviously I'm in lighting as well, and my big the thing that I try and champion is the idea that LEDs now are the technology that the whole world is lit up by.
Yeah.
And the basis of an LED is a bright blue light, right? It's a really high frequency visible light wavelength.
Yeah.
And that charges us. Like, it has the same amount of energy as a double espresso.
Yeah.
So if you're thinking about frequencies, and as you say so beautifully, in Western civilization or the world at large, you look at monks in comparison to us, they're floating on this slow alpha brainwave and trying to get into states of deep meditation and calm and slowness. And our environments are pumping blue light, which automatically puts us into, was it high beta?
In a high beta, yeah.
High beta
Yeah.
state. And then we've got blue wavelengths, which are pumping even more high
Yeah.
frequency into us and stuff.
Yeah,
I
and
mean,
I think also when we go through social media and reading and engaging with things that not really has a lot to do with us, we get kind of stressed by comparing ourselves and stuff. Funny enough, when you increase the brain state after high beta and are above 30 hertz, then you're in the gamma region. And gamma has a lot to do with brain health, has a lot to do with focus. Gamma has the capabilities of shutting parts of the brain down and quietening parts of the brain.
so just between that high state high state beta, just above that is the restorative gamma.
Yeah, and where we have a connection to the universe, or when we have spiritual connections, then we go into beta. When we have higher thinking and logical thinking and complex thinking, then we have beta. So it's a very good state to be in, but it's also the most intense state for the brain to be in. But as we get older, we have a reduction in that gamma state, and that leads to Alzheimer's and dementia and all that. So with a light like that, you can reintroduce certain frequencies, and you can reintroduce certain frequencies into the brain and help the brain.
So can you talk us through it? I mean, so gamma, Schumann, alpha, and delta. Should we start with alpha? So just for sort of simple terms, so you switch it on, you got your eyes presumably shut, eyelids shut?
Yeah, throughout the whole experience of the shot, you observe the light.
Glad I'm doing it right.
Yeah,
instead of staring
about
down.
an arm
You
length
can't
away. You
stare
keep
directly down
the
the
light about an arm length away.
Yeah.
And then you observe the light through closed eyelids.
So what will you see? So looking at the alpha, when it's strobing at your shut eyelids,
So
it puts
I
your
can show
brain
it to
into
the
a state
camera.
of-
Depending on the frame rate we have here, we can see quite well. Okay, we are here in the alpha. So the alpha is quite an evenly intense pulse. Already when you have it on the surface and you look at it, you can already see certain patterns and swirls going on. Alpha is a very effective frequency because it's roughly the frequencies our eyes refresh at. So we have a certain frame rate like you have in a camera, and your eyes are around 10 hertz, so the information into the brain goes around there. So when you use the light on that frequency, your brain naturally understands that frequency, but it can't really do a lot with the information it receives. But it looks for certain patterns and starts creating its own images, and that's why alpha is a very visual experience. From all the four settings, probably alpha is the visually most intense one, because we are very receptive for 10 hertz. Also binaural beats, we can talk about them later, but also binaural beats usually target around 10 hertz. So then you have delta, which is nearly almost the opposite. Delta is almost very slow pulsing light, and when you're observing it, it almost reminds me when you sleep away in the back of a car. You drive along the motorway, and you have the street lights. So it's very calming, and you can almost feel how you're falling asleep under the light. Also, when you for example combine with speech therapy, you can see that people start kind of a little bit
falling asleep.
it's a little bit wobbly talk under the light, so that's quite interesting as well. So it's really slowing you down your brain waves. So it's great for people, for example, with insomnia. Have people that didn't sleep for days and weeks, and they come on an event and they're really concerned about that. They put them under the delta, and within 2 minutes they're sleeping and snoring on the floor. But it's also great, for example, for highly sensitive people who are easily overwhelmed. The whole brain autism spectrum talk we have at the moment. It's great for people struggling with certain visual inputs, with neurodiverse. Yeah, thank you for the word. And that really helps to just calm down. And then we have
you seen real physical examples of that? You say that people start talking slower and falling asleep, but have you tried with neurodiverse individuals? Have you seen?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, amazing.
And the response is very unique because everyone perceives light in a complete different way. And when you go into the neurodivergent group, then everyone perceives it even more different, I would say. And it's sometimes not easy to explain what the experience actually was. But usually the feedback is very positive. People experience really a blissful state under the light.
No.
Then you have the gamma, and the gamma is nearly standing light. So it's flashing around 40 hertz. The MIT made a few years ago a study around 40 hertz, and 40 hertz reintroduces these gamma waves into the brain. I mentioned it earlier, that when we get older, we're losing that gamma activity in the hippocampus, and that attracts a certain protein. And that protein has a waste product, which are then basically the brain plaques or perineural nets. And these are structures in our brain which stiffen the brain physically up. So we're losing our brain plasticity. When we learn, we need kind of an elastic brain that our synapses can move around and make new connections. And when we get older, we're losing that brain plasticity because we're losing gamma activity in the brain. So MIT made a study with people just entering Alzheimer's and dementia, and they gave them a light like that, and not my light, but something like that, and they had to use it every day for half an hour, and they had a significant reduction in Alzheimer's symptoms and a massive improvement in cognitive function. So it's without any additional medications or anything like that. So it's really remarkable. But gamma can also be great for the complete opposite, for students that have to learn a lot, for people who have maybe an intense job, cognitive intense tasks. And if you feel that sluggish moment in the afternoon, or you need that coffee or that energy drink, instead of messing around with your sleep because of the high caffeine content, it's sometimes better just using the gamma and just giving your brain a little bit of boost. And it almost has the same effect like a coffee or a strong espresso, but you also don't wreck your sleep because of it.
It's just wild. I mean, the fact that your eyes are kind of windows to the world. So I think a lot of the time I talk about us reaching out. And the earliest theories of sight were there were extramission theories. So we used to believe that we had kind of tentacles that would come out of our eyes and would reach out and touch the world around us. So we've always been very aware of the fact that we can sort of like feel texture and make sense of the world around us through what we put out of our eyes. But yeah, looking at it in a whole new way by directly hardwiring into your brain to have real physiological changes through dedicated light frequencies is amazing. And actually, it's something that's often overlooked in the built environment is light flicker. So when you get your phone out and you try and video a TV, or even on like the London Underground, you try and look at the next train coming and the screen's flickering on your phone. So most of the lights in the world that we live in now flicker, but for really bad reasons. There's no real consistency. It's a sort of I don't know what the frequency would be, but it's enough to really, and I feel it heavily. I can go to offices, and if I'm doing a presentation, I can feel it flickering, tiring my head out, giving me a headache. But it's really cool to think of the way that you can, the power of light to actually reach in really with your brain and just massage it into certain ways. It's a really amazing tool. And you've got this, the Schumann?
The Schumann is our own Earth's frequency.
It's the what, sorry?
Our own Earth's frequency, the Earth's pulse.
Yeah.
And it's basically the electric discharge in our stratosphere makes a bass hum on our planet. And that's 7.83 hertz. And everything in nature is subject to that frequency. So we're really receptive to it.
Do we have less of that frequency living in cities now then?
I don't think you can't get rid of it. I think it's really...
it's the engine of the world, isn't it? So,
and it's not something you just stop or just quieten down. I think that's something we all subject to it. And 7.83 hertz is basically the base frequency of the Schumann. And then you can multiply it by itself, and then you get the Schumann resonance scale. And when you use them in sound, for everyone looking into sound healing and stuff, they usually work with tuning forks with the Schumann resonance scale. But also light, the benefit on light is you can really work with the actual frequency. Whereas with sound, 7.83 hertz is incredible low sound. You barely can hear that. So we can actually work with the actual frequency of the Schumann resonance. And people exposing themselves to that usually have quite earthing sensation. They feel like it's very grounding. A lot of people start dreaming with the Schumann resonances. It's usually connected to dream images or some loose images in your field of view.
So if we kind of go through the day and work out the optimal setting to use at different times of the day. So you wake up, how would you use Loom to kickstart your day in the best way?
It's really depending on the individual. But I think someone who has maybe a little bit of a rough time to wake up in the morning, I would suggest start with a gamma session that activates your brain, gets you going. If you want to do a short one over lunch, a Schumann could be quite a good choice.
Just to ground yourself.
Yeah, ground yourself, or it can also be an alpha. Some people take the alpha as very relaxing.
I definitely did.
Yeah.
I did it,
for me, it's a little bit more activating, the alpha. If you're a little bit overstimulated already at lunchtime, for some individual, you can go into a delta session to just calm yourself down, to just bring you back to yourself. If you're a person which has a little bit that dip in the afternoon, seeking the coffee, seeking a little bit a distraction on social media to just get going again, instead of doing that, I was just going back into a gamma session. If you someone's struggling going to sleep, a late afternoon gamma session can help, because it naturally increases your serotonin, which needs to be cancelled out by melatonin. That increases naturally your melatonin level, so you don't have to supplement that. If you have a naturally high melatonin level, you can do it in the evening and get the melatonin response more or less immediate. So it's really depending on the person itself. And when people ask, I usually suggest just try it out for 2 weeks in different ways and see how you feel with it. If it racks your sleep, just move it early into the day. If you feel it makes you sluggish and heavy, just change to different frequencies, maybe do it later in the day. But yeah, in general, I would say if you work for brain health and mental health with the light, you use it once or twice a day, 6 days a week, and make 1 day break. If you work more in the emotional way with the light, you use it every other day, and extend the session maybe to 20 minutes instead of just 2 10-minute sessions. And if you're more the psychonaut and more the visual chaser and more psychedelic journey, looking more for a psychedelic journey, then you would do it once or twice a week, and then you do it something like 30 minutes to an hour, depending what you want to do. Yeah.
Have you done proper studies on this? Have you given it? I mean, one of the big things I found, like I said, was with the alpha state, having emotions that would pop up that I wouldn't normally expect just off looking at light. You know, really feeling past experiences in a way that was very visceral. I didn't really, you know. Have you used this with like therapists or anything like that to help them dial up emotions that become more tangible to patients?
I have a really interesting story that's just recently happened. It's Vadim Kunst is his name. He's a Russian sound practitioner from St. Petersburg. And he contacted me because he bought a light of a curiosity healing shop. Because I think pretty much in the beginning I had someone contacting me from Russia that he wanted to buy a light, and I didn't have them as a shipping destination on the website. So I sent them a light, especially just for them, and I never heard again. And a few years later, 6 years later, he contacted me from Russia, and I assumed that must be the guy. And he told me, no, he bought it from that shop. So that person who bought it must have sold it to that shop, and he bought it from that shop.
Been an adventure.
Yeah, it's quite an interesting turn there. Yeah. But he made such an interesting work with it. He works with ADHD patients and also people on the spectrum and PTSD. With the light combined with the gong. And when he works with ADHD, he basically simulates the effect you have when you take, for example, a Ritalin. Ritalin basically raises the frequencies in your brain, makes you more active. And someone that has ADHD, that has the reverse effect of calming down. So everything what makes us more active makes an ADHD brain more relaxed. Yeah. So even a strong coffee has the same effect in an ADHD brain. And he works with children and also other people, of course, and basically simulates the with the light, with the gamma frequencies, that effect of the Ritalin. And he really achieved remarkable results for people who were able to replace or strongly reduce the medication they have to take.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, it does just show how affected by light we actually are. I mean, how do you see this potentially real term practical applications? Do you think it could be used in hospitals, schools? If you had it your way and you could, put this into a specific sector, where do you think it would have the most benefit?
I'm working with such a versatile base of customers, and I think it's always so exciting to hear what people make out of it. And every time I hear something, I think, oh wow, that's an interesting application. And I hear something else and I think, oh yeah, that's an interesting application. So it would be such a shame if it would just point it to one specific purpose. I think what we do nowadays with the whole autistic and neurodivergent discussion, also what we do with ADHD in children, is sometimes quite a difficult one, because we're giving really tough medication to very young people who sometimes don't even have a choice. And these people, they don't even have the ability to learn to deal with their brains and deal with their emotions, because they're always kind of in that state, in that medicated state. So I think if sound and light would be an option to just help someone to reduce maybe medication, or for some even replace medication. I'm not claiming that it heals anything, please understand me right, but if we can help just
an
here,
extra
there.
tool in your toolkit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing is, I think we are a very distracted society in general.
Yeah.
So learning focus, learning to deal with distraction and boredom and all that is something.
Well, sitting still.
It's
right?
just
It's
sitting
almost
still.
like, it's funny, it's ironic, because actually technology has made us find it really difficult to sit still, but your technology can help us then come back to sitting still.
Yeah,
in a way, in terms
so
of-
we expect that that when you're in a school class, we expect that everyone can sit and sit still, but we're not teaching anyone to calm their mind or to just
well, the opposite.
yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
It's actually-
if you can't do it, then you're ill and then you need medication.
Mm.
And that is quite a weird approach. When you look more far east, they have more practices where they learn to deal with their busy minds, and they learn how to center themselves.
Forest bathing in Japan, and
Yeah,
is it called Shibo? I think it's called Shibo or something. But I mean, I was a restless kid. At
Yeah.
school. This is why when I find something I'm interested in, I go 110 miles an hour into it, and here we are chatting about light in a podcast that I run. Right, so
Yeah.
I get really into it. I just in a futuristic world, if this was actually at school, and I was able to put an alpha brainwave, an alpha mode onto your loom, and have that just above my laptop screen when I'm working at university trying to study or whatever, I know it would have helped. Like I know I would have been able to, when I'm getting in those hyperactive, go, oh, next page and what
Yeah,
next
that's
fact.
another application you just mentioned. When I think a lot of students, they abuse certain substances to give them the mental push they need to stay concentrated and focused in their work. And if a light could help to basically just do the same effect or a similar effect, that would be a brilliant one. But also the complete other side, what we do with sometimes with the elderly, if we just could basically excite an elderly's brain with a little bit light and giving a colourful experience and just broaden the spectrum we perceive reality as, is something very valuable. But also a psychedelic group, people engaging in mind exploration and things like that, I think has a lot of value there, because not everyone wants to go to journey with a mushroom or with an LSD, or some people are maybe a little bit afraid of going on a journey like that, and giving a tester or giving a taste of how it could be going into an altered state of consciousness.
It's also because it does give you a safety net. You know, the fact that there is quite literally an off switch.
You switched off, and within 2 minutes it's back to normal.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you have that, unlike, it's taking a dose of something which might go on for hours or days or whatever it might be. At least you have that off switch. But it was interesting. So I did I went to an event that I told you about that incorporated this on a different scale. It was much less portable. It's very much an exhibition. So yours obviously being a USP of pocket size, use at home, domestic, that kind of stuff. But when I was there, it was amazing because I was sat with every single fabric of society, right? You've got like men, women, you've got young people, old people, and everyone was sat in the circle going through this alpha brainwave experience, and it was just comical listening to people who not to pigeonhole, but probably wouldn't have tried psychedelics or anything like that, just giggling and saying, oh my god, this is amazing, coming out, and we were asked to draw what we'd seen. And it really just everyone was so energized and positive and creative. And I remember walking out that afternoon and really feeling like an extra there's no fluidity in my mind. I felt like I'd almost had an MOT, right? It's obviously it's a far more intense thing because it was a pitch black, all of that, but I really must say, actually this tool that I've been using in the form of your loom has been really, 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 really interesting. And so let me have a look at some of these. Suddenly, when I'm chatting, I suddenly lose. Yeah. So, fucking hell. So we've spoken about this. It's kind of crampy here. So should we talk about sound a little bit as well?
Yeah.
So talking about sort of the melodies. How else can you? So you do a little bit with that as well, right?
Yeah. I mean, the loom itself for my products are not coming with any sound generator or inbuilt sound connections. Funny enough, it's one of the most requested features I receive from.
Is that essentially on the horizon, do you reckon?
No, because the people who request it, it's usually not them who actually tried it out.
Yeah.
Because the people who tried it out will come to the event. They ask me, how is it possible that the light is in sync with the music? So it's an effect that happens.
So you do events as well? You do
I
events
do
where,
events
like,
where I have 10 between 5 to 15 people on an event usually.
How do you do that? Is that with the same smaller product?
Yeah.
I
I have a stand, and the stand I have, you can attach 6.
It's a mega stand.
Yeah, it's mega stand.
It's a
Where
mega
you can
stand.
have, it looks like a massive spider or a massive insect with all these lights
An
on.
octopod, not a tripod.
Yeah,
Bubble.
and then people can lie in a circle around it.
Cool.
I made other events where everyone just had a separate light, and then have.
So
them
that's
in
what,
rows.
lying on their back, looking up.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Like an igloo. An igloo.
An
igloo.
So the the sound. The interesting aspect is that the people under the light often have the impression that the sound is in sync, or noises from outside get into the experience.
But is it just alpha frequency music? So is it kind of...
No, not at all. But it's the effect of brainwave entrainment, because we our brain's really looking for patterns. And we really like patterns. That's the reason why we see also in surfaces and things always faces, because our brains like
making
looking at
sense,
faces,
or looking at clouds, and stuff,
clouds,
right?
yeah. So the music, even if the beat of the music hits every 48th or 50th light flash, your brain starts connecting these things and thinking,
yo, this guy's a genius.
Yeah.
How's he managed to...
And we automatically start syncing stuff up. For example, on events, sometimes I work with holistic instruments like rattles or a little drum, or I have a bell or things like that. And it's quite interesting how the sound immediately changes the light experience. So you don't necessarily need 100 different sound light sessions on the light. The loom really divides it in the 4 main one, the 4 important one, I think. And you play around with the sound, or with silence, or with whatever, and everything what you add to the experience, or add to the loom experience, is what eventually changes the experience itself. So when you listen to, for example, Indian classic music, everything starts looking very bubbly and colourful and circly.
Different for everyone, though, right? So for you maybe
for me, yeah. But when I listen to just a hum, or when I listen to a cello concert, it can go really dark. It can go almost cloud-like. It can be
or ominous. You get that bassy kind of terror, sharp F or whatever it is when Jaws is going. That kind of.
So it's very depending on what you listen to, but also senses are quite fragrances are also a very interesting direction when you work with different incense, and we're connecting emotions, for example, with the smell of fire. So when you have a little bit Palo Santo or a cedar
burnt
wood,
tobacco leaves or
something
whatever,
like that, then you immediately get triggers going. Tobacco could be a reminder from, for example, a person you know, and that can trigger something, and you start seeing that person in the experience itself. It's your brain just grabbing something and making sense of it, and
so we
building
did
the experience.
There's this amazing person who we've sort of interviewed before, who said they were doing. So she's a colour psychologist called Karen Haller, and she was interviewing someone live on air and trying to get to the root cause of why this person that she was speaking to hated a specific colour. And she was like, well, what's the colour described? And it was a sort of maroony red. And she was like, why? I have no idea. I have no idea why I hate this colour so much. And she got her to shut her eyes and kind of, again, find that calm, probably that alpha, where you're just, going, or, low beta, and calming down. And she realised that she got lost on Chinese New Year. And she saw all the red lanterns and has always taken that with her. So I wonder if, going into the alpha state when you're seeing stuff and seeing maybe a bit of red, suddenly a smell that might have been there on that street when she got lost. We're sensory beings, really, aren't we? We connect to the world through our senses and our eyes. And I think, is there a world where you would maybe incorporate this into your house, or do you think this is just like a daily dose thing? Are you a tech head? I mean, a little bit, but would you get to a stage where with your smartwatch it would connect to your Loom and you can walk through the front door and it can go, okay, Joel's a bit stressed today, let's give him some, whatever it might be? Or is that too far?
I don't think when you just induce it into the world, it necessarily brings the best benefits with it. I think a huge benefit from the practice is also the intention behind it, and taking yourself out of it and making consciously a step towards it. I don't think we need something else in our life that basically intrudes into our everyday life. I think we should more work towards a world where we have less intrusion and more intention in our everyday life. So I see it as a really good everyday tool for different practices, but I struggle to see it as a tool which is just built into your ceiling and it's just there. Yeah.
So imagine we're 10 years into the future. How do you see this technology evolving? Where do you see it?
That really depends how it gets adopted by the people. I think because I'm not the first one bringing it to the market and bringing it to the people. You can go back thousands of years where the ancient Greeks and ancient Egyptians and Romans already played with flickering lights. Shamans use it with the effect of flickering fire, and you can early 20th century where they use flickering lights to induce artificial or try to induce artificial schizophrenic states to find a cure for schizophrenia, because a lot of psychological disorders were meant to be schizophrenia. And then you can go into Brian Gisin's Dream Machine and the collaboration with William S. Burroughs, and he was convinced that will be a household item everyone will have. And it wasn't the case. And then in the 80s and 90s, the first cheap LED goggly type products came onto the market. No one really cared about it. LED technology was not even close to be there. Then early 2000s, you had the larger systems coming onto market, extremely expensive devices. But yeah, there was the first time where LED technology was on a point where you could say, yeah, that
we're getting somewhere.
We're getting somewhere.
Yeah.
But what I see is just something popping up and then it just kind of disappears. And every time when we start again, we start kind of from scratch. It's not, we can't really connect the history with the next thing. In other technologies, in other developments, you have always something following the next one. But it seems like with that, it's always coming out, people have a little bit of excitement around it, and then it just dies off for some reason. That's why I'm saying the next 10 years is really decided if people adopt it
as part of their daily practice as well.
Yeah, or weekly practice or whatever. But if people gain an awareness around it, if they gain an awareness, I see loads of different variations of a light like that. It could be a small handheld thing where you just have as almost like a pen-like device.
Pitching the Men in Black thing there.
Men in Black thing, or you can have something you click on your glasses or things like that. But also,
Apple Vision. Have you toyed with the idea of?
Yeah, I also played around in VR with the effect.
How does that compare compared to? Is it a lot more intense, or is it too intense?
I mean, in VR, I played with the flashing effect, and it's just not strong enough in terms of light
because of, I guess, the
intensity.
depth that they deliberately build into the goggles.
And the VR experiences that show you a psychedelic experience, I personally feel it's not a real psychedelic experience or a real altered state of consciousness, because you kind of get it induced into you and it's kind of shown to you. And I feel a true altered state of consciousness is one that comes from within. That happens within. But yeah, I feel that in the next 10 years, if people adopt it, then we have a very interesting industry ahead. If people once again kind of leave it behind, then we'll see just the same thing again, and then the next Lightbath company will turn up and bring something new, and after them something new. But Jordan Peterson said once that it's the creative people are basically the poor people, because they always do it for the first time. They're always the ambassadors of something, and something to be successful needs to fail multiple times before it can be successful.
It's familiarity. So they have the early adopters, then the general, but I can't remember what it is, but there's that 5-stage.
And that always sat with me, that it's very true that and I kind of understand. You mentioned it earlier. You see something like that, you think that can't be true, or you get sold so many different devices. They might work, they might not. It's okay. It's absolutely okay. But I think with the Loom on that price point, with the type of product it is, it's definitely the first time chance that it can go further than just being something, oh well, I like to try it out. I think we spend that money for much stupid things without questioning.
And I can vouch for it. It really does calm you down.
Yeah.
Well, dude, look, it's been really, really interesting talking about it and learning about your sort of process and journey into even developing as tech. Is there anything else you want to talk about as well? Do you want to go into like the audio a bit more, or like?
I also found. I think it was the last question you noted very interesting. I think you said you wrote it down as if you could see it to bring it.
If you could put Loom in any one place in the world to make the biggest impact. Yeah, I don't know whether we'd maybe cover that with the schools or hospitals. Or
I think the obvious answer to that would be, let's bring it to the leaders of that world. We need leaders that have a different perspective and a deeper insight into their mind. But
I can't help but not think. Have you seen Ali G, where he puts weed in the world leaders too? You kind of want that, but with the Loom.
but I just see that the potential really lies in the smaller spaces, in the individuals. At the end, we are the society. Politics, everything going on in politics is just a reflection of our own society, the society we build every day ourselves. And I think if you have a device which can be placed in a home for someone who is a warehouse worker, someone who is a mother and housewife, someone who is a manager and deals with hundreds of people, someone who is a social worker. No, just normal people, and we can create an expansion in the mind and in the vision of the more smaller type of people, of the average type of people. We will have a change in society, and you would think you get that change when you bring it to the powerful world-leading minds, but these world-leading minds just react to everyone else. And I think if you get the change there, if you get a waking up in our society, that is a lot more powerful than just that.
100%.
And I think something else we also need to talk about, I think we haven't really mention what actually can happen if someone goes into a light experience, and because the effects are really versatile. Some people might see it as a just black and white flash. Some people don't see any colors, don't see any patterns.
I definitely, in the aftermath of the Dream Machine one, which I went to, people were drawing what they were seeing, and I had like a little bit of color. Looked to the left, and someone just had a page full of what looked like a 6-year-old's finger paint drawing.
Yeah.
And then on the right hand side was just like cuboids in pencil.
Yeah.
So I literally saw left brain, right brain on paper.
Yeah. So some people have very heavy bodily sensations with it, that they're feeling like they're levitating, or they're rotating in mid-air, or some people think they're sitting up. Some people have the impression that they have their eyes open, but they're actually closed. Some people start dreaming and have really heavy imagery of dreams and people and environments, and other people just see kaleidoscopic images or clouds. So the way people perceive the light is really versatile.
Does it work better with audio? I mean, if you were just to pipe some Barry White into the room whilst you're listening to it or looking at it, I mean, is it enhanced? I know you said it can have an effect, but when people are using this at home, is it worth setting up a little speaker and?
Yeah, I think the best thing is really when you listen to music on headphones, and maybe be open to music you usually wouldn't listen to.
Yeah,
yeah, maybe music you wouldn't listen to when you drive around with your car. Go into uniquer sounds.
Yeah. Well, I guess it's sort of what ambient, rainforest sounds, everything from that to some like grinding low bassline techno kind of, sort of everything in between.
Yeah, or classical music. Some people, for me, it's really effective for classical music as well.
It's highly emotional music as well in particular, isn't it?
And it's not necessarily something I would listen to when I drive around with my car or when I just do my work.
Yeah, if you have Heart FM.
Yeah, but for example, white noise is also another one, or the MR, maybe, how is it called again? The one where they do the
ASMR.
Yeah. But that can also be quite a unique sensation.
There's some weird ones though. There's like people eating pickles into the microphone. I think that would spin me right off into.
But yeah, it can be quite a unique experience. But also when you do it in nature, you can bring it outside. It's a battery-powered thing, and you just listen to the forest or to the sea, and you hear the birds and you hear the winds. And
well, it is that little bit of like fresh air that we actually need, right?
So I think it definitely helps, but it's not necessary to have music with it. But it can definitely lead into a different
some incense and oils.
Yeah.
Well, I guess it's like everything, right? It's like I always use this expression of like, I remember all the best meals I've ever had, but none of the worst ones. A couple of the worst ones for the wrong reasons. But you know what I mean? We live through our senses, and the more we can dial up that multi-sensory experience, the easier it's going to be to remember that. But also it's because we have more to go after. So I guess if you're pumping smells, sounds and everything else into your experience of looking at the loom, that's going to dial up the viscosity really of the experience that you've got.
Yeah, and we shouldn't forget that we are built from memories. So and these memories are just pointers, little pointers, and we piece them together. And when you observe,
like the Chinese New Year lantern, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So when you look back into your history, it's you sorting every night out what you don't need, and when you observe how memories change over time, it's quite interesting. And these pointers, we can utilize them to go into altered states of consciousness. And
have you used it have you gone in with an intention of, I would like to explore work, or I'd like to explore, I mean, obviously you discovered this after you packed up your house, sold it and moved from Switzerland, right? So I take it you didn't go in and do some alpha brainwave activity to get into the crux of whether you leave the country. But could you go in and face up to big problems with an intention, and then use that light to help you dive deeper in, set in a pure intention for the journey?
Yeah. So when you work with intentions, it's advised that you write them down, and not really seeking for it. You just write it down.
A rough idea of, you know, I'm after, why am I feeling uncomfortable at the moment? Why am I feeling stressed?
You can bring a question, you can bring in something you want to get an answer for, and you can,
It's a disclaimer now for anyone selling their houses and moving country. This is not us.
It's just that is a very powerful tactic to bring things with you. The more you engaged in the light with things, then less effective the light becomes. So the light is really the most effective when you just can let it be. When you just can lay underneath the light and don't ask anything.
So if your brain's relaxed, the light can mold it, right? If it's rigid, it's not going to move too much.
But when you sit down before the experience and just write things down a little bit, or just make a note, or and after the experience, also take a little bit of time to integrate. You don't need to pick it apart or try to analyze every detail, but if you just, when you come out of the experience, just grab yourself a little bit of memory, just a little something, because I feel sometimes I have such an information download on.
I think that's why we were asked to draw immediately. You process it,
and then as soon as the light goes out, they can see kind of just flying away, and really consciously grabbing yourself a little snapshot of something and use that. And when you work more in the emotional side of with the light, you have more what I said, the every other day pattern, and you will consciously write something down. For example, today I'm tired because you kind of follow up with a diary, or you have a little photo diary, or you make some video shots of yourself, and then you basically record the progress over time. Because there's another effect when you use it on a regular basis to work on a problem or an emotional difficulty, that you not really can remember how it was before and how it was after. That is the thing with the memories. We kind of
distort them.
Yeah, we distort them. We build them ourselves. You can also see that with siblings when they talk about their childhood. You can have one child who has had the worst childhood ever, and the other one think it was great. We grown up on a farm. We had that and that and that, and the other child said, "Wow,
I had nothing
to do. The child
animals.
surrounded by animals, was always freezing cold and so on." So you have complete two different perspectives, but both children, they grew up in the same way. So how we build our memories and how we perceive our memories is something we when we keep an eye on it, we kind of become aware of. And
it's reflection and intention, right? So you go in there with an open mind, and then it's just I think it's good for having a sort of like little rummage around the old noggin, right? You can kind of go in, do some introspection, and then coming out and making notes of that.
Exactly.
You're then actually facing up to stuff, because when do we ever really take a moment to sit and think about, you know, how we feel? Really, I mean, meditation is that, right? It's sort of settling into yourself. But I mean, I always say I'm gonna try and do 10 minutes of meditation a day. I don't manage it. Other stuff gets in the way. But yeah, when you start to really do it on a daily basis, whatever form your meditation is, whether it's drawing, as you say, doing video note taking, even Loom, whatever it might be, you end up, I think, starting to connect with yourself a bit more. And I don't think there's enough of that, really.
Yeah. So the thing with a daily practice, when people often pressure themselves into it, and they often do it for the purpose of doing it, or because it looks good on social media, or it people say all these positive things about it, they just want to experience that, and not necessarily they do it for themselves. So but I see that so often, especially here in London as well, when you have an event, how many people turn up on an event and they make almost a social media thing out of it. So they walk in with their phones, they make the photos of your product and the logos and the little gifts.
I've seen photos of like 20 years ago at this festival.
Yeah.
And it's just everyone having the best time. Or as Ibiza, I think I saw on a dance floor, and everyone's just having the best time. And then it's like 5 years ago, and it's just every single person in the room has a phone.
Yeah, so we often in the holistic industry or nowadays, because it became so trendy, it became also quite a trendy thing to just show off with. And it has often not a lot to do with really personal and deep relationship with yourself and growing with yourself.
Well, I think there's this sort of fake version of yourself you present on social media, etc.
Yeah.
And it's happening more and more, right? I mean, I've got you hear stories of young kids now who double tap books to turn the pages, which is crazy, right? They just think it's an iPad. They're literally touching hard copy books.
Yeah.
And then I went out the other night, and every single person in the club was on their phones, but also some people were FaceTiming their friends at 2 a.m. on a dance floor in a nightclub, and I was like, you're so disconnected from what's going on right now. I ended up feeling so uncomfortable that I ended up getting my phone out as camouflage to blend in with the other people that were doing it. It shows my age, right? Suddenly I was like, I need to maybe change venues to a slightly older venue. But it's funny, the more and more that these young generation are coming through, I think the more damaged they're becoming by technology. But if there's an instant way that we can just stop the stress and just give yourself that little bit of instant respite, then it's a good thing, right? And,
So I think technology like the Lightbath, or the other products as well, can really help us to access these states of consciousness and these old states where we can emotionally grow, and can see the world in a slightly different perspective. But I think it needs to come from the people. I don't think it makes sense to push people into it. And somebody that gets pushed into a practice like that because it's cool, or because they saw it just on social
they're not
media,
emotionally connected
they're not really getting far with it.
Yeah,
they might have the effect, but they're not getting far with it. They're not building a relationship to that in a
daily practice.
Their practice.
Yeah.
And I make advertising on Instagram to showcase the product, but I see most of the clients buying one. They have already quite a journey before they're coming into the light, and usually the people that buy one, they keep it. Have a very, very, very small percentage of people returning it. And I get daily just positive feedback from around the world, from Canada, from America, from Brazil, from Germany, from France, from Switzerland, from Romania, from everywhere, to what people do with the light, what they experience with it. And it's just such a motivational thing. I really like it, and I'd rather have that value, and instead of the hundreds of thousands devices we can sell into the world and make all that money or whatever. I'd rather do it in an ethical way, and a healing way, and bring the quality that the light can bring that to the world, not just the next trendy thing people can jump on and show themselves off with.
Well, I think it's a really nice place to start.
Yeah,
Giles,
thank you very much.
Awesome talking to you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, it was great fun.
Thank you.
Instead of the thousands devices we can sell into that money or whatever, I'd rather do it in an ethical way and healing way, and bring that the light can bring that to the next trendy thing people can jump off with.
Well, I think it's a really nice place to start.
Yeah,
Giles,
thank you very much.
Awesome talking to you.
Yeah, thank you very
so
much.